In this video, we're going to cover how to use multitile OBJs in Zbrush, and then how to export multitile displacement and normals and things of that nature from Zbrush using the MultiMap exporter. Now for this example, I'm going to recreate a scenario where, let's say that we have an object that we've already sculpted on, but after the fact we've decided for various reasons or due to production needs that we need to make this object a multitile UV object. And so I'm going to go through steps to show you how to convert the object, reproject the details, and then how to use MultiMap exporter to create our maps. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is append and create a polymesh 3D. And select that new polymesh and import our new model that has our multitile UVs. Okay. And hide the old mesh. And for certain scenarios, you may have to come down to display properties and hit double-sided so that you can see it. This particular model is very thin. Okay, and so now if we select the polygroup and then go to polygroups and auto group with UV, and then go back to polyframe, and you can see now that we have our multitile objects, and the group by UV has created a polygroup for each UV set. So now I'm going to subdivide this geo up to the point where our previous geo was, and then select that object, make the previous one visible again, and then go down to project and hit project all. And what this is going to do is it's going to project the details from the first mesh that we had sculpted on that only had one set of UV tiles, and we're going to project all of that detail onto this new model that is a multitile OBJ. Okay, so I'm going to pause this while that projection is in process, and I'll come back in just a second. Okay, so here we go. All of our detail has been projected from the previous model onto our new model. And it's a good practice to go in tight and look around your model. Sometimes there can be some strange tessellation or some wonky polygons that the projection, it just didn't work out on, and then you'll have to smooth those out or fix them up really quick. But it looks like our projection here was successful. It doesn't look like there's any nastiness that made it into the new model. Alright, so now let's open up the MultiMap exporter, go to the plugins section, and here we have it. I'm going to use displacement and normals, set my map size to 8K, flip V, and then go down to the export options, and we want to do adaptive. Oops. We want to do adaptive, dsubpix of 4. I want to set the subdivision level to the level that I want the detail from. You could also set it to 1. This is one of those, pick your poison, whatever is going to work for you. Set your model back down to the lowest subdivision of what we're going to be projecting onto or displacing in ZBrush. Maya, sorry. Mid should be 0 because we're doing a 32-bit map. 3 channels, 32-bit, and EXR. Okay, and then down to the normals, we want tangent, adaptive, and smooth UV. And then all you have to do is hit create maps and point to the directory that you want to save them in. Even though this says TIFF, it will export EXRs. Because we have that one button clicked in the MultiMap exporter. So I'm just going to make a new folder, and that's where we'll dump these files. And then I'll just rename this to correspond to the folder that we've created. Alright, and now we wait for it to export, and everything should be all good. Once this is finished, we're going to go back into Maya, and I'm going to show you how to set up the displacement shaders for Vray. Okay, so here we are back in Maya. So first, go to File, Import, and we're going to bring in our object. Okay. All right. Now this model was built to scale. It's about 50 meters high, and with Maya defaulting to centimeters, you'll see the clipping planes of our camera won't show it. So it's okay. Just click your camera, come down to your far clip plane, add a couple zeros, and we're fine. All right. So first things first, frame it up a little bit, and we're going to assign a standard Vray material. And then we want to go to our material shading group and attach our displacement. Turn off filtering. And here are our maps as we generated from the MultiMap. But before we do this, as a time saver, I'm going to want to tile these EXRs, give them a MultiMap tile EXR, just for memory efficiency. It'll render a little bit faster than if we just pumped these guys in there. So before we do this, let's go to our Vray folder in the chaos group in program files. Go to Vray. I'm working in 2014, so all the stuff will be in the 2014 folder. It'll be in 2013, 2012, whatever version of Maya you're working in. Go to bin and image to tiled EXR. Click on that. And then that's going to bring up this little GUI. And we want 32-bit. Scanline zip is fine. Linear auto. Tile size 64, that's fine. Conversion type. Now, if you're only going to do one file, single file is what you want, but we're going to be doing multiple tiles at once, so go multiple files. And then we're going to select the directory that those files live in. So for me, okay, and output directory is going to be the same. But actually, within that directory, I want to make another folder. So source images, new folder, and we'll call it tiled EXR. Okay, and then once that's done, all I have to do is hit convert. Okay, so now that I've finished up, let's go ahead and close, and you can kill the GUI. Now, go to select, go to tiled EXR, and pick the first in our chain. All right, let me shrink this down a bit. Okay, and now let's map our Vray material that we have. Now, when using Multitile, some versions of Maya don't have a problem using the UDIM token, but I've had bad experiences with Maya 2013 and 2014 kind of erroring on a UDIM token when using displacements and things like that. So I usually default back to just building my shader networks by hand. So that's what we're going to do here. So the first thing, so move these out, and I want to break this connection really quick. And then I need two more file nodes because there were three tiles in this OBJ. Okay, And then now we're going to daisy chain these together, middle mouse button click, and drop one onto the other and choose default color. And then do the same thing for this one, default color. And then now we have to go onto the place 2D texture node. And on the first in the chain, I'm going to undo wrap U, undo wrap V, and leave translate frame as 0. For the second tile, turn off wrap, and then translate frame 1. And third, undo wrap, translate frame 2. And now what this is doing here, if I select my object and look at the UVs, whoops, I want this. Okay, so you'll see that I have three tiles for UVs, and that tile offset that I was just pumping in there, for the first tile, this is U0, V0, so you don't have to put anything in the place 2D texture translate frame. So this one is essentially this swatch. So you leave that at 0. Now the second swatch, you translate 1 because you're translating 1 over. And then for the third swatch, you're translating it 1, 2. That's why you put 2 there. So it's always, you know, it's a little bit counterintuitive in the fact that you're like, oh, well, I know my files themselves go 1001, 1002, 1003, or if you're getting them straight out of ZBrush, they'll be U1 underscore V0 or U0 underscore V1. I actually went through and changed this naming convention from the ZBrush naming convention to a Mari naming convention because I'm going to be painting this object in Mari, so I try to keep all my texture files with the same numerical conventions. So if when you render out of the MultiMap exporter and you see, you know, your name of your file and then underscore U with the numerical value, underscore V with the numerical value, that's the default ZBrush option, but you can also set in the MultiMap exporter to kick out a UDIM type naming convention. All of these things might not make sense if you don't use Mari and things of that nature, but if you do, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we have all of our translates set up. So now let's add the other textures. Okay, and let's do the third. Okay, so there we go. So now we have all of our offsets in place, all of our file nodes with each of our three displacement maps for each of the UV tiles. And then now we want to go to the top node, the first file node, the one that corresponds to U0, V0, and we want to middle mouse button click that onto our displacement node. But we don't want to do default, we want to do other. And the reason for that is we need to go to out color and select only the red channel, and then pump the red channel into displacement. You only want to use the R channel to pump into displacement. Okay, and so now that is totally set up, and we should be able to see our displacement. So now on the file read node for each of these displacement maps, we want to go to Attributes, Vray, Allow Negative Colors, and what that's going to do is give us the negative where it digs into the model. Otherwise you'll only get displacement outwards, you won't get displacement inwards. So Vray, Allow Negative Colors, Vray, Allow Negative Colors. Okay, and then now the next step is to select our object that is going to be displaced, and we want to go to its shape node, and then go Attributes, Vray, Subdivision, Attributes, Vray, Subdivision and Displacement Quality, Attributes, Vray, Displacement Control. Okay. Okay, and now in these Vray extra attributes, there are a couple things that we need to set up. So we need it to be render as subdivision surfaces. We want to uncheck subdivide UVs. Now edge length is a value where the lower you set this, the better the displacement quality will be. So you can go to 1, but it will increase render times dramatically. So 4 is sort of a nice default to go with. Max subdivs, this is way too high. This doesn't need to be any higher than, you know, like a value of 8, and even that is potentially high. So normal displacement amount 1. We want to keep continuity, and we don't want to filter the texture, because that's just going to blur the displacement and we'll lose some high frequency detail. Okay, so again, render subdivision surfaces, uncheck subdivide UVs. Edge length can be anywhere from 4 to 2. We'll leave it at 4 here just to render faster. Max subdivs, you can take that down to 8. It does not need to be 256 or whatever the default was. We want to keep continuity, and we don't want to filter the texture. Okay, so now let's just do a quick render of this. Oh, and actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add a sky dome light really quick. Dome spherical. Take the subdivs up a bit. Just because I want something more than just the default Maya light, so you can see the detail in the displacement. Okay, and I will use just a little bit of color temperature. And before we hit render, let's go look at our render settings really quick. We want to set this to be EXR, image format options. We want scanline zip and 32-bit float. Okay, I'm going to render 720. And now for the purposes of this, I'm keeping the settings low just because there's no need to jack them up. This is just a just to show you how to set it up. We're not trying to do a super beauty render here. Okay, so now that those render settings are good, we're going to hit render. And we bring it to render view. And we'll give this just a second to cook, and I'll come back as soon as the render's done. Okay, and here you see we have all of our displacement. Everything has come through cleanly. We're rendering fine. No crazy artifacts or anything nasty or weird coming out in the displacement. So we're pretty much good to go with that. So just to recap everything up to this point, let me go back to our hypershade. Okay, so when creating a multi-tile shader network by hand with displacement, you need to have a file read node for every UV tile that you've created. You need to do your translate frame and undo wrap U, wrap V. So again, the U0, V0 swatch should be your first one that you actually pump into your displacement, and you're pumping in only the red channel. So again, it's out color, red channel into displacement. And then with each UV tile, as we go U0, V0, and then over, you want to translate 1, translate 2, translate 3. Even though this is the 4th tile, it would be translate 3, 3rd tile, translate 2, 2nd tile, translate 1, so on and so forth. So that's how that setup is. But yeah, again, so daisy chain them all together, do your translates, your offsets, send your out color R into the displacement, and then displacement into the shader. Now for the actual object itself that's going to be displaced, go to its shape node, and then again go to attributes Vray and attach all your subdivision and displacement quality and displacement control. And then down in those settings, render a subdivision surface, uncheck subdivide UVs. Edge length can be anywhere from 4 to 2. Max subdiv should not really be higher than 8. Normal displacement, keep continuity, and turn off filter texture, because that would kill your little high frequency details. And then that's it. The only other thing is that, again, on the actual read nodes themselves of these guys, also don't forget on the file node to go attributes, Vray, allow negative colors. Okay, and so that's how you set up multitile displacement with Vray, and using the MultiMap exporter out of Zbrush, and also reprojecting details from one mesh onto another, so that you can, have the flexibility to start out with one mesh, decide halfway through or after you finish your sculpt that maybe you need to change the UVs because you want a little bit of extra resolution, and then that's when you can re-import an OBJ using append polymesh 3D, and use your MultiMap exporter to export all those maps out, and you're good to go. Oh, and also always remember to tile, bitmap and tile your EXRs using the image to tile the EXR executable found in the actual Vray chaos group folder in your program files directory. Okay, hope that was useful, and remember to follow us at the Max Steps on Twitter and on Facebook, Max Steps VFX. Thanks.